Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you are new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
Today, we are going to talk about the Disaster Recovery Vault. Disaster recovery is basically a backup of our primary infrastructure, primary vault, and the database. Just to ensure that the service is not interrupted, even in case when our primary vault is not working. For that, we build a disaster recovery vault which can take over automatically when it senses that the primary vault is not working. To set up infrastructure from scratch, a disaster recovery vault from scratch, there are a few things that we need to take care of. The first step here is we are going to build a new vault. We are going to build a separate vault, a fresh installation on a different server. We are going to install the vault in a separate server, a new installation. Once that installation is complete, we are going to replicate the information from our primary vault to the new vault that we have built, that we can create an exact replica of the primary vault. The same set of information will be there in the new vault that we will build as well. It's going to be acting as a backup of our existing vault. It's going to stay in a passive mode. It will only be activated. The functionality on the new vault will only be activated when our primary vault is not working. This DR vault is always supposed to stay in passive mode. The functionality will not be activated. Let's understand how does this DR disaster recovery works. Let's set up this disaster recovery vault architecture from scratch. If you go to the DR vault, the first step for us, we have to install the vault here in this new server. How many of you remember the prerequisite of the vault? There were some prerequisite, right? The vault has to be isolated. Network communication has to be disabled. Let's complete all those prerequisites. Let's go to network and internet setting. Go to change adapter setting. Change adapter setting. Do you see that option here? Change your network. Change adapter setting. Right-click and properties. Disable all the communication protocol except Internet Protocol version 4 that will be used to communicate to other components. Allow the Internet Protocol version 4. What's the difference between the version 4 and 6? Basically the same thing with different versioning. For mass communication, if you want the server to communicate to multiple servers, you might, let's say, thousands of servers. In that case, you might want to go for Internet Protocol version 6. Internet Protocol version 4 is for limited communication. You can choose anything here. Either IPv4 or IP6 will work. That's the only prerequisite of the vault in terms of network and communication protocol. We have made sure that only one protocol is enabled that is required for the vault communication. And we have also made sure that all the additional external software are installed on this vault server, right? There are some prerequisites in terms of software. We need to make sure that master key, operator key, and license should exist in this vault. Let's quickly ensure that everything is there. Go back once. Go back one. Do you see a license file here? I don't think it is there. Can you log into Primary Vault once and Primary Vault once and copy the license file from here? Let's paste it on the DR Vault. Right. Let's go to server release 12.1. We have made sure that all the installable files that are required are copied here in this folder. Let's right-click on the setup and let's run it as administrator. Right-click on the setup. Let's run it as administrator. Alright, we'll accept the RDP warning. We do not have any other protocol. Let's click Next. License agreement will accept. Name and company can be anything. We'll go with the standalone architecture. Once again, accept all the default locations. License file path will have to provide it. Where do we have the license file? In the Downloads folder. Operator keys. Click on Browse once again. Let's expand the downloads. Then operator keys. Click and click Next. Let's skip the remote control agent. We'll avoid all the complications for now. Click Next. We are not doing distributed vault. We are going with standalone architecture. We'll skip this one. Click Next. Can you click on Do not harden the machine? We have done the manual hardening anyway. Click Next. We'll accept all the default program folders. Click Next. All of this we have already done. During the Vault installation, we are just repeating the same set of steps. We are building the Vault in a new server. Alright. Let's quickly define the master and administrator password. We'll use the same one for simplicity. We'll use the same without any special characters. Let's quickly install the private app client. It should be a very straightforward installation. Go to the client folder. Let's run the setup as administrator. Click Next. We'll accept the license agreement. Name and company can be anything. We'll go with typical, not make a lot of customization. We'll accept this as well. Click Next. Let's define the vault now. Click server name. You can just type dir. And the address will be the IP address of the server where we have built the dir vault. That should be the private IP. You can copy it from AWS console. Default username will be administrator. Click. We'll accept the warning. Click. Let's do a quick restart now. This is how we do the installation of the Vault. We have completed a fresh installation of the Vault. In a separate server, we have built a new Vault which does not contain any information. As of now, completely blank. We are going to bring the data from our existing Vault to this new Vault. We are going to bring the information from our existing primary vault to this new vault that we have built. All the information needs to be replicated. And from there onwards, we also need to configure constant replication. We are not going to do manual replication every time. That's going to be a very ineffective process. Manual replication will want to evolve. We'll have to configure automatic replication. We want the dir vault to connect to the primary vault automatically at some periodic intervals and replicate all the information that has been changed. Automatic replication needs to be configured. To be able to do that, we'll run a disaster recovery utility in the DR server that will bring the information from the primary to disaster recovery. But to be able to do that, we'll have to provide some input. It should be the IP address of the primary vault from where the information needs to be retrieved, and a user account and a password which the DR vault can use to constantly log into the primary vault and retrieve the information. This username and password you'll find in the primary vault itself. The username and password has to be created on the primary vault that the D. Our vault can use that account to log into the primary vault. Where are we logged in at this point? We are logged into the DR server. Can you go to the primary server once, Bishish? Can you go to the primary vault and open the private art client? Let's open the vault. Can you go to Tools at the top and Admin Tools at the top? Administrative Tools, Users and Groups. Scroll down. These are where the internal users on the vault will be created. You can see the PVView App User Gateway, User PSM, App PSM Gateway, right? Expand the system once and go to DR, double-click on DR. By default, this is the account that we are going to use in order to configure constant replication. This TR username and this TR account will be created by default as soon as you install the vault. and it's going to have the respective permissions on all the safe to create a backup of every information that you have in your vault. By default, this user is disabled. We'll have to enable this user if you want to configure it to trigger constant replication. Click on this. Perfect. We have enabled this user. Now we need this user to set up the replication. During the utility is going to ask username and password of this user. We know the username is going to be dr, but we do not know the password of this user. Let's quickly reset the password. Go to the Authentication tab once. On the password column, we define a password. Just use a simple password. Use CyberArk one, whatever it is. We need to use this password in a few minutes. Make sure that you keep the passwords very simple that you can remember it. Alright, now that we have enabled this user and we have defined the password for this, click. That's it. This user has all the permission backup safe and restore safe. That click and close this and log off from the private client. Let's go back to the DR vault and let's start the process of replication. Back to the Disaster Recovery Vault, right? Can you minimize this private client and open the private server once? Now the next step for us is we are going to replicate the information from our primary vault to the Disaster Recovery Vault. But we'll have to ensure that the functionality of the DR vault are solved first, because in the standalone architecture, you cannot have two vaults running with same set of information. That's going to create complications for you. You cannot have two vaults running with same set of information. In this case, the vault functionality will stop first and then we will trigger the replication. We will only have the primary vault activated. DR vault will always stay in passive mode unless primary vault is not working. Let's stop the functionality here. Click on Stop Server. No more shutdown. Click. That's it. Alright, once the functionality is stopped, let's start the replication process. Go back to the software folder. Let's click Next. Now let's accept the license agreement. Name and company can be anything. Click Next. Accept the default destination. Replicate user details. This is where the utility is going to use this account to automate the replication process. DR account is the one that we want to use. Provide the username as DR and the password. Click Next. Address will be the IP address of the primary vault. From the primary vault, we need to bring the information. Make sure that you have the correct address configured. Perfect. Click Next. And we do not have a lot of information. This should be a quick one. Let's do a complete restart now. And the application is complete. We'll do a quick restart. We'll log back in to confirm if the application has worked or not. Alright, we are logged back into the DR Vault. The replication should be complete by now. Let's quickly confirm that from the logs, we wouldn't be able to open the private access server or client because the functionality is stopped here. It wouldn't allow you to log in, but let's confirm if the replication has completed or not through the logs. Go to Program x86 private app folder. You see private app folder here. Let's go to the private app disaster recovery folder PDR and logs. Open the PyDAR log file. Can you close this one once? Open again. Alright, if you notice, here a full-scale replication got triggered. Scroll up. Push it, scroll up and all the information. A full-scale replication got triggered and all the information, all the saves that we have has now been replicated from primary to the disaster recovery one. Even the use case and the other saves that we have created is now replicated from primary to the disaster recovery vault. And from here onwards, a constant replication process will be triggered. Let's understand how does the constant replication triggers, what would be the interval, and how does the DR actually work. How does it talks to the primary vault and what happens if the primary vault does not respond. Far, I hope it is clear. Any questions up till here? Alright. If not, let's understand the behavior of the disaster recovery vault with the help of configuration file of disaster recovery. If you go back one step and go to the configuration folder, let's open the PADR file. Open the PADR file. Alright, there are some parameters here. Based on these parameters, the disaster recovery vault is going to act. Let's understand what these parameters are. The first parameter that you see, replicate log on from file. Replicate log on from file basically means that from this particular location, there is a credential file that the DR Vault is using to log into the primary vault and retrieve the information. The DR user is not a human. It cannot type in the username and password to log into the vault. It is using a credential file, a text file that contains the username and password in encrypted format. We have talked about credential file in our password upload utility session. The credential file is a text file that contains the username and password in an encrypted format. And this is the username and password that this utility is going to use in order to log into the vault constantly and replicate the information from there. Let's close this. Go back to the PADR file. Enable check. That means whether the primary disaster recovery well tries to check the primary vault to see if it is responding or not, to see if it is activated or not. Enable replicate. That means automatic replication should work or not. This should you keep this parameter. No, the automatic replication is not going to work. Enable failover. Failover is a process where the DR vault tries to reach out to the primary vault. If the connection does not work, the DR vault is going to make another attempt to reach out to the primary vault. Let's say even after some consecutive attempts, the connection is not working and the vault is not responding. The DR vault is going to start all the functionality on the DR server automatically. All the vault functionality will start automatically and all the components will start communicating to the disaster recovery vault. That even the primary vault is impacted or down, the DR vault will still compensate for that and the users will be still. They will be able to retrieve the information and your primary vault is not working. That entire process is completely automatic and that process is what we call failover. We are going to see the failover in a demo as well. Just after this, we'll perform a manual failover and failback. We'll see how it works. Enable DB sync. That means database synchronization needs to happen or not? We need this to be set as yes. Check interval is set to 60. Check interval as in the interval period when the DR vault reaches out to the primary vault to check whether it is working or not. Right now it is set to 60. That means the value is in seconds. And that means every 1 minute the DR vault tries to reach out to the primary vault to see whether the vault is activated or not, whether it is responding or not. Check interval equals to 60. That means every 60 seconds, the connection attempt will be made. Check read rise count. For some reason, let's say the DR vault fails to reach out to the primary vault or the primary vault does not respond. The DR vault is going to make another attempt. Let's say second attempt. It does not work. It's going to make another attempt. It's going to keep making some consecutive attempts. As per what we have defined here, it's going to make 5 consecutive attempts to reach out to the primary vault. But even after all the 5 consecutive attempts, it does not work and the primary vault does not respond. It's going to start the failover process. Check read rise interval. What would be the interval between those two read rise? That will be 30 seconds. Replicate interval is the period between two replications, two full-scale replications. The value is set to 3600 seconds. That means every 1 hour of full-scale replication is going to be triggered. Replicate retrieve interval. For some reason, if the replication does not work after 300 seconds, a retrieve for replication will happen. After 300 seconds, a retrieve for replication will happen. Access vault for inactivity. Yes, we want to do that. Failover mode is basically reflects the current status of your disaster recovery server. If it is setting in a passive mode, which is how it's supposed to be, the failover mode will be set to no because the failover process has not been started yet. But as soon as the primary vault goes down and all those 5 consecutive attempts does not work, the DR vault starts as functionality. And in that case, the failover mode parameter will automatically be turned to yes. This basically reflects the current status of your disaster recovery server. Right now, it is set to no. That's how it is supposed to be. The last 2 lines are not really important. They are just some last replication timestamps. Even if you remove them, there is no impact. This file is completely customizable. You can change the values, but these are the default values for the disaster recovery. Any questions up till here? Alright. If not, there are no changes to the primary vault. So far, we haven't made any changes on the primary vault. Once this is failed over, D, R becomes our active server. How does this TVUA understand that I have to connect to this particular Vault server? That's a good question, Beshish. That's going to be our next step. We have to configure. They are not going to automatically know that which vault they need to communicate to. We'll have to configure them to communicate with the DR vault in case the primary vault is impacted. That's going to be the next step. Once we have the DR server created, the replication set up, we are going to configure our component servers to communicate to the DR vault in case when the primary vault is not working. Let's see how we can do that. But any other questions up till here? In this configuration, we can have a downtime of around 2 to 3 minutes. We are going to have a downtime of 5 minutes. Sorry, what's that, Beshish? No, that's it. We will have some downtime. We are going to have some downtime in this case. In the standalone architecture, we are going to have downtime of 5 minutes. But if you do not want that downtime, you can go with high availability architecture, which is basically the cluster vault or distributed vault, multiple vaults in the same architecture. I can see two issues with this. First is obviously the downtime, and the second one is if there is any vault or safe created or the account created within that particular time frame, then those days will not be able to be considering that we have. That is again true. That is again something that we are going to talk about in a few minutes. Let's go back to let's bear with me for a few minutes. Let's go back to the disaster, the POA server. Let's see how we can configure our components to communicate with the disaster recovery. What in case the primary what is not working? Alright, in order to configure our components to communicate with the disaster recovery world, we'll have to change the vault address in the vault file. You will have to change the address on the vault file, but understand how do we do this. Go to the CyberArk folder here, CyberArk folder. Password, Vault Web Access and Vault Info folder. Let's open the Vault once. Every component you have in CyberArk, whether it is password, Vault, Web Access or CPM or PSN, they're going to have a Vault file of their own. This Vault file is a configuration file that dictates the address of the vault where component is performing its functionality. Right, for POA, we can see the address is the primary vault address right now. If you want this vault to communicate to any other IP, we can just replace the IP address here. But in this case, our requirement is that it should communicate with the primary vault first. If the primary vault does not respond, it should communicate with the secondary IP. Right. That's the requirement. Let's copy the IP of the DR vault from AWS console. We'll just add a secondary IP here and this vault.ini file. Add a comma and paste. In this case, we are configuring our pVLAY to communicate with the primary IP first. If the primary IP does not work, the pVLAY does not fail. It communicates to the secondary IP. But if, let's say, in case the primary vault is started, it wouldn't go to the DR vault. It's going to communicate with the primary vault and it's going to load all the information for you. Only in the case when the primary vault does not respond, it talks to the secondary IP, right? This is the same thing we do for the rest of the components as well. CPM PSM. If you save this file once, then can you go to Start button services once? Since we changed the configuration file right, let's restart the services for the changes to take effect immediately. Scroll down all the way to the bottom. We'll have to restart the service that is responsible for Internet. That would be World Wide Web Publishing Service. The last service that you see here on the bottom. Restart the service. Right. Now we can do the same thing with CPM and PSM. We can change the vault file address. We can add another IP in the address, the vault file's address parameter. But there is a problem with this. Like you said, let's say if we change the information when the DR vault is activated, let's say you are in a failover situation, your primary vault is not working and your DR vault is activated. You change the information on your DR vault. You allow the CPM to communicate to the disaster recovery vault and CPM changes the password. But let's say any change that you make, you onboard the accounts or you modify any parameter, the changes that you have done on the disaster recovery vault is not going to be replicated to the primary vault when you restore your primary infrastructure. You restore your primary vault because in this case we have configured one-way replication. We are replicating the information from the primary vault to the disaster recovery vault. Right? We run a utility on the DR vault which brought the information from the primary vault to the DR vault. We are not running the utility on the primary vault. We are not bringing the information from the DR vault to the primary vault. It can get confusing here. We are not running two-way replication. We are only bringing the data from primary to DR. Right. When you make a change on the DR, that change will not be replicated to the primary when you restore it. And this can create problems for you because when you restore your infrastructure, you are not going to see consistent data. The data will be outdated. In that case, there can be some complications. This is why you are not advised to make any changes when you are in DR situation. The first priority is always going to be fixing the DR vault, fixing the primary vault, activating it. And all you want to ensure at this point of time is you are allowing the users to retrieve the information and you are allowing the users to make and establish the connection. Right? But you do not want to make any changes on the DR vault. That you should not have any inconsistency in the information. But let's say if you have a necessary task that you need to complete on the DR infrastructure and your primary vault is taking too long to get fixed. And let's say 1 week or 2 weeks. In those cases, you might need the password management capabilities and you might need to make changes on the existing DR infrastructure. In that case, it can be allowed, but you have to make sure that before you restore your primary vault, you are bringing the information from the DR to the primary. You'll have to trigger a reverse replication. How do you do that? By running the same DR utility on the primary server. Just the reverse process of what we did. We are going to run the DR utility on the primary vault. When it asks for an IP address, we are going to provide the IP address of the DR vault. When it asks for a DR user, we are going to provide the DR user created on the DR vault. And only once the information is replicated from DR to primary, we restore the infrastructure. Before you restore your infrastructure, if you have made any changes, you need to trigger a reverse replication, and only then you bring the primary vault back to active mode. Make sense? Hope that answers your question, Bishik. Still, there's an issue like if there is any safe created and it is not yet replicated to the DR vault, then those safe will not be able to use those safe. That can be accepted. That is not replicated as in, but the replication is going to happen every single minute. Right? Let's say even the full-scale replication is not triggered. A metadata replication will happen your DR vault is going to have most updated information. You can be assured of that. I hope you understood your question right here. The DR vault is going to have the latest information. And before you bring your primary vault to life, you need to make sure that you are restoring or replicating all the information from DR to primary. Hope that answers your question. In here we have set, like in this case, like replicate interval is 3600, which is 60. It is full scale replication. It is talking about full scale. Two types of replication are there. Full scale replication. That means every information is going to be replicated from scratch. Metadata replication. That means the changes that has happened since the last full-scale replication is going to be replicated. What's the interval for that? Every single minute, every 1 minute, it's going to do the metadata replication. Got it? Thank you. All right. This is how it works. Let's talk about how does the failover and failback works in CyberArk. Let's say if suddenly the primary vault goes down, how does the DR vault takes over? Vishesh, can you log into your Pillow just to ensure that your POI is working? Log into your POA portal. I think the public IP matters. All right. Right now, POA is communicating to the primary vault and it is loading all the information for you. Right now, POA is communicating to the primary vault. It is loading all the information for you. But what happens if the primary vault gets stopped suddenly? Let's go to the primary vault. Vishesh, can you stop the primary vault? Let's see what happens. Open the private Arc server. On the desktop itself, you'll see the private Arc server. Let's stop the functionality of the primary vault here. If this happens, the DR vault tries to reach out to the primary vault. It wouldn't get a response. It's going to make some consecutive attempts. It's going to make 5 consecutive attempts. And even after all those 5 consecutive attempts, if the connection does not work, it's going to start the failover process where disaster recovery vault takes over. POA communicates to the disaster recovery vault and loads all the information. Since the disaster recovery vault is an exact replica of your primary vault, the same set of information will be loaded on the POA and your users are not going to notice any difference. Email alerts will be triggered to the administrators that the failover has happened. They might need to troubleshoot further, but this is how it's going to work. Automatic failover process with 5 minutes of interruption. Right now, if you load your POA, it's not going to work because we have stopped the primary vault. We can see all the failover happening in real time, how many attempts are being made, all of those events happening in real time through logs. Let's go to the log folder in the DR server. Once open the logs.pedia log file, scroll down all the way to the bottom. Right now it is not updated yet, 243. Close this. Open the peer log file. Is it updated yet? Not yet. Let's give it a minute. Wait, let's not install anything yet. Let's give it a minute. After the session, probably you can install. Vishesh, can you open the Notepedia file once again? Scroll down. Alright, if you notice the last line here, it says attempt to test the vault availability has failed. The first time it tried to reach out to the primary vault, the connection did not work. After 1 minute of interval, it's going to make another connection attempt. Close this once. 248, open it once again, scroll down. If you notice, failed to attempt to test vault availability 2 times. It failed 2 times. Let's wait for 3 more attempts and it should automatically start the failover process where the disaster recovery vault can take over. Start all the primary vault functionality on the disaster recovery vault and DR, and the PVVA will start communicating to the DR instead of the primary. The reason I was installing Notepedia files is that we don't have to reopen the file again. You can just reload the file. But let's not do the installation. You don't know. You can break during. Let's wait for a few minutes. After that, we'll do the installation. How many attempts has been made for? Check retrieves interval is 30. Finally, it should once it fails. I mean, that's what I understood from these terms, that it will retrieve once it fails. It will retrieve after 30 seconds. But it is taking every 60 seconds. Can you go back to the log file once? I think that. Let's see the difference between each of these items. So 649, 51, 48. There might be some. I mean, it's difficult to share. Let me see what's going wrong there, but did the failover process. Can you maximize this? And the process has completed. Let me see what's going wrong there. Bishish for you, but this shouldn't happen. Alright, failover process has started. The disaster recovery service has now been terminated and the primary vault service has been started. That means you would be able to log into the POA now if you refresh the page. Can you open another instance of the browser, maybe in cognitive windows? Alright, let's try to log in. Alright, you're able to log in now. Perfect. This means that the POA is now communicating to the primary of the disaster recovery vault instead of the primary vault. And even if our primary vault is impacted here, it's not working. The users will still be able to log in and retrieve the information. This is how the failover is going to work. After 5 minutes of interruption, the services starts automatically without any manual intervention. The email alerts will be triggered to the administrators and auditor, and further troubleshooting can be done, but the users will not face any interruptions. The next step for us. Any questions up till here with the failover process? Not with this. I'm assuming that the session recordings will not be impacted, considering that is. No, every single save is going to be there and every recordings will be saved on the vault. You have to do the failback in order to reach. For example, during failover, if there is any session active, what happens to the recordings? The recordings will be there on the DR vault and you'll have to retrieve the recordings from the DR vault. And if you have the two-way application configured, those recordings will be transferred to the primary vault. who fix. How does the primary vault get fixed? Like who fixes it and how long does it usually take? Can you repeat that, Aroshi? Sorry, I said who usually fixes, like the primary vault then, and how long does it usually take? This is something that would be a responsibility of CyberArk administrator. Let's say this is how the failover works. Once the failover is completed, the next step for us, let's say we have fixed our primary vault. How do we restore in our infrastructure? How do we restore our infrastructure? That's going to be, there's going to be another process called failback. There's going to be another process called failback to restore infrastructure. That's what we are going to use. Failback is completely manual process. Failback is completely manual process. Some set of steps that you have to repeat in order to perform the failback. Let me type all those steps in the chat window for you. These are the steps. Step 1, you'll have to ensure that your primary vault is fixed. You'll have to ensure that your primary vault is fixed. Second, you'll have to make sure that the functionality on the DR server is now stopped. In step 3, we are going to change the failover mode to no, which was turned to yes automatically when the failover started. In step 4, we are going to start the disaster recovery service. Let's see how it works in real time. Let's quickly perform all these steps. The first step, we are going to fix and start the primary vault. Let's quickly start the private act server on the primary vault. On the primary vault, let's quickly log into the primary vault. Let's start the private act server. Second step, we are going to stop the functionality on the DR server. Let's go to the DR server. Stop the functionality on a DR server. Stop this private act server. Third step, we are going to change the failover mode to no on the PDDini file on the DR server itself. Let's open the configuration file that we just talked about. Go back to the configuration folder and change the failover mode to no, which is automatically turned to yes. Now, remove the last two lines, which is once they are not really important. To remove the last two lines, save this file. Close this, and the last step, we are going to start the disaster recovery service that the replication gets triggered. Start button on the DR Vault itself. On the DR Vault Start button and services. And let's search for CyberArk Vault Disaster Recovery Service. CyberArk Vault Disaster Recovery Service. Start this service. That's what we call failback. Some set of manual steps that we'll have to work on. Failback is completely manual. Failback is a process to restore the infrastructure just the way it was. Now, if you log into the PVOA, it's going to retrieve the information. It's going to connect to the primary vault and retrieve the information from the primary vault just like it was happening earlier. Let's just test that. Bishes, quickly go to the POA and let's see if you are able to log in or not. Alright? Now the PVOA is communicating to the primary vault instead of the DR vault. This is how we do the restoration of the infrastructure. This is how we do failback. Failover and failback are important processes from interview perspective and certification perspective. Very important topic. Please remember, please keep the failover and failback processes in mind. I have provided an install app guide which contains all these failover and failback steps as well. You can take a reference from there as well. This is all I have on the DR. Bishes, if you want to see how the changes are going to work, you can try this. You can run the DR utility on the primary server as well and do the failover and failback once again. That might be a little homework for you. Ani, this is all I had on the disaster recovery. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.